Good morning, everybody. So it's Erev Shabbos, Pash metzora. I'll be laying again. So those people who live in Ramat Shemesh, Ramat Shiloh area, Daven Hashkama or something. Didn't do a great job last week. Unfortunately, this week, it's 39 years since my bar mitzvah parsha. So okay, we'll see what we can do. Pash metzora. Um, Interesting, as we know, the Kohens mentioned dozens of times in last week, this week's parsha, and we know that it's not you're not tahar till the Kohen says you're tahar. You're not tamei till the Kohen says you're tamei. Behuva el Kohen. And it's interesting. Mishnais in the Gaim says that they would tell the Kohen, say it's tahar, boom, it's tamei. So what's the purpose of the Kohen if he maybe he's not the expert? The Gadol Hador is the expert, the Bezdin's the expert. What's the purpose of having the Kohen go to him? He goes to the Kohen. If all he's going to do is really say what he's told to say. So the Pri Tzaddik says, whenever it says Bo el Kohen, it mentions Kohen all the time. It's talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem. When it says Aaron HaKohen or Achad Mibanav, then it's Aaron HaKohen or one of the sons. But Stam Buhuva El Kohen is talking about Hashem. The person's brought to Hashem. We know that the Kohen is a shliach. He eats a shliach of Hashem. He eats the truma. So Kohen. So many times the Kohen, or at least in this parsha, it references the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Huva El Kohen b'nirpa. He's brought to the Kohen, meaning brought to Hashem. It's only the time when he's fully healed, when he's fully in tshuva mode, then he's healed. Then he's brought to the Kohen, and the Kohen could make him tar. Or if the Kohen sees he's not fully with tshuva, then he's not healed. He still has the nagam on him. And the Kohen makes that call because he's a shliach from Hashem. And the point is that even though metzora is worse than, on some levels, he's worse than a killer, he's worse than a robber, he's worse than a tamei mace, he's worse than a zav, because he has to be away from his friends, away from his family, away from his house. And even though he does all these horrible things, he causes hatred amongst people, he causes fight with young people, whatever he does, there's still a way back. He's never pushed away 100%. And the Gemara brings down a story of Elazar ben Durdai, that he's with all these prostitutes, and the last moment he does tshuva, and he's so torn over it, he cries and cries until his neshama leaves him. And there's a baskol that says that this guy, Elazar ben Durdai, he's going to Chayim Lahua. This meriros, that he was kona tshuva, he's kona the world in a second, even though he spends his life, spent all his money and all his time till chasing after the world, after these women. One moment he wants to leave it, one moment he wants tshuva, and he's called him Rav. He's not a rabbi until the Baskol says, Rav Elazar ben Durdai. The last minute he could do tshuva. And even though maybe afterwards a person does not vera, his Yitzhar gets over him, but that moment he could become a Baal Tshuva. He's a Baal Tshuva. And the Gemara says that even if someone says, I'm a Kadeshes, I'm an Asta, I'm a Tzaddik, it's at least a Safek. Even though he's a Rosh Gemura, is a Safek, or at least in the Kadeshes, because in that moment he could really be a Tzaddik. It doesn't take 1,000,000 years to do Tshuva. It takes a second to fight over Yetzirah and to promise that you're going to not do a certain Aveira. That moment, even though 10 minutes later he's doing the same Aveira, but that moment he's considered a tzaddik. And this is really, I think, a tie-in to Shabbat hagadol. We look at Shabbat hagadol, Yom Gadol V'no Ra. There's a reference that Gadol V'no Ra, the name of Shabbat hagadol, doesn't say anywhere in Parshas Bo, but Malachi Yom Hashem Shlach Yonavi L'fnei Hashem Yom Gadol V'no Ra, Yom Gadol. That before Mashiach comes, Yom HaGadol, there'll be the great day, the big day. And we know that even though the real time of Tshuva is Tishrei, but the Gula, according to Rabbi Yeshua, Machlokes Rabbi Yeshua, the Gula can come in Nisan. Wait, no Tshuva? No, definitely there's Tshuva, but we don't need a month perhaps to do Tshuva. Maybe towards Tishrei and Yom Kippur we need days, many days for Tshuva, But according to Rabbi Yeshua, all we need is a Shabbos. All we need is Shabbos that can lead us to tshuva. And the lesson is from Pesach. People did not have Shabbos even. They didn't have the mitzvah Shabbos. But they have one thing they're supposed to do, the metzora nefesh, to take the seh out of the streets of Mitzrayim, even though they knew quite well that this was a holy thing in Mitzrayim, taking the lamb. They have metzora nefesh. And that one piece, even though there wasn't a lot of mitzvahs, they didn't keep anything, they didn't do bris milah, they did nothing in Mitzrayim. They were considered like the Goyim, they owed avodah zarah even, but they do one thing. All it takes is one big thing to lead us to the Geula, and that's the big thing. Yom Gadol v'Nara. All we need is a Shabbos of greatness, a Shabbos of keeping Shabbos, a Shabbos of being strong, a Shabbos of Torah, a Shabbos of Tshuva, and that could lead us literally right into Mashiach. And as far as small things, big things, I'd like to say that about a week ago I sent out a message on the chat groups as far as collecting money for a fellow friend of mine from Beitar Elite, and in 1 week, about $2,000, 6,000 shekel, berach, that kind of thing, and pretty impressive. Not that $2,000 is $1 million, but just not many people get this text, get this Kvar Torah, and to raise $2,000 is a pretty impressive. I like to thank all those who contributed. People still can contribute, and this is really something special. I think that most people, I don't think, listen to this. Some people do, and thank you. It's a big deal that people stepped up and helped somebody else out who called me yesterday. He was really emotional. That's really going to save and help someone's chag, bring simcha to the chag. It's not just about eating macaroons and eating matzah. It's helping other people. That's really the simcha of chag. You can't have chag if you know that you could help other people. You're not. That's not simcha chag. Also, this past week, 2 weeks ago, I was at a Chanukas Habayis. My good friend Josh Ross invited me, and I get a real simcha to go to a Chanukas Habayis. Very seldom, not very seldom. Often, I walk down the steps of my house, and even though it's not the biggest house in the world, but to have a house in Eretz Yisrael that I'm paying off, not all paid off, but working on it, it's a big deal. You go to Eretz Yisrael, and you kind of know you're not going to have the biggest house in the world. You're kind of, I don't say limited. The Dati communities, everyone kind of lives on top of each other, so you're not getting a huge mansion. So someone to kind of make aliyah and to kind of buy an expensive house and not get a lot for it, quote unquote, it's a big deal. And I walk down the steps sometimes of my house and how fortunate I am to have a house in Eretz Yisrael. And I think this is kind of what the lesson also of Pesach is. Pesach night, the people stayed in their homes. They didn't go outside. They concentrated on their families. They concentrated on their homes, to fix their homes, to kind of reset Pesach night. You don't have a lot of mitzvos, but as long as we're concentrating on ourselves, we're not looking at the neighbors, looking at what other people are doing, being humble. This is a place of Shechina. This is a place that Hashem wants to save Kaviyachal. And I think this is also a tie-in with metzora. Nasati negat saras. People go to Yisrael, and the negas in the walls. They open up the walls, and there's jewels and diamonds. There's stuff in the walls. The walls are holy, and whether you live in Ramat Shemesh or live in fancy Flatbush, there's holiness in the house. There's holiness there. It's up to us to kind of increase the holiness in the house. And by doing this, we don't look at other people. We try to help other people, but we don't really have to judge our homes by looking at others. We have to judge our homes by ourselves, how best we can increase the Kedusha, increase the Tahara, and hopefully that will be enough, God willing, to do tshuva, lead us to tshuva, and to help us to bring the Geula. And hopefully next week we'll have Pesach, we'll have Mashiach, hopefully before we'll have a Korban Pesach, and that'd be kind of something. Shabbat Shalom.